Welcome back to Drafting with Mark, and in this video we're going to continue creating a drawing for this cooktop. So I'm going to create the drawing, and then if I have time or if I see that this video is not too long, I'll go into doing a little presentation stuff for you. But let's go ahead and create just a regular 2D drawing on a B-sized title block. So if you haven't saw me do this one, just go ahead and watch the first video and I'll show you how to make each one of these parts and also assemble at it. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you go watch the first video. But this one is going to be all about doing some 2D drafting. Alright, so make sure that you have the assembly saved. That's going to be one of your most important steps. So the assembly is saved. You can see all the other parts here that I do have created. They don't need to be open, but it's sometimes really nice to have them open, and I'll show you the benefit of having them open. So let's go ahead and create this 2D drawing. I'm just going to select the new icon here. And once that brings open a dialog box, I'm going to be dealing with the metric one. And then I have to choose what type of title block I want to use. So I can use a metric title block, or I can go ahead and use an imperial one if you want to, but I'm just going to use the millimeter one. And I'm going to tell it that it'll be a millimeter one, and I'll be able to tell it what size I want to use. They have some predefined templates here if that's what you do want to use, but let's just go ahead and use just a regular one, and I'll show you how to adjust the size if you need to. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the create button, and like always, we're going to give Inventor a little bit to load up for us and get ready. Alright, so once it's ready, this is just the standard title block that Inventor likes to use. Underneath in your browser here, underneath the sheet 1, you're going to see this is the actual title block for it. So that's what this is here. I'm just going to do a right click and I'm going to delete this thing, right? If I wanted to edit some of those, and I might do that in another video, how you can edit some of the attributes in here. But for what we need on this video, I'm just going to go ahead and delete some of this stuff, right? So I'm going to select this, and then I'll do a right click on it and then delete it. Alright, and so once we select it and right click on it, I'm just going to go to delete, and you're going to see that that does delete. If you wanted to make this title block a different size, right now it's set at a D size. So if I double click on where it says sheet 1, I'm sorry, not a double click, so do a single click on it and then do a right click on it, and then let's go to edit sheet. Once we get the edit sheet dialog box come up, we can change the size that we want it to appear in. So if I wanted to use a B size, I can select it here, or I can select any of these other standard sizes. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a B size. Remember, a B size is going to measure at 11 by 17. So you can see those numbers here, and that's what we're going to use. And once I hit the OK button, this is going to shrink down to a B size drawing. Alright, the first thing it's going to do is that I need to create a view in here. So just like the AutoCAD, we're going to create a base view. So I'm going to select the word base. And once I select base, I should get a dialog box that appear. I'll also get a view of what I'm trying to create. So if this is going to be your front view, and in our case this does happen to be the front view that I'm going to select, I can locate it. If you want to change that view, you can select on the view cube and you can see that it will change the view. But for our case, let's go ahead and leave this as the front view. And then we can adjust the size of it. There are kind of two different ways to adjust the size. So I can kind of pull this corner, and I'm doing a left click and drag. So if I can pull this out, you can see that this is a little bit bigger, right? If that is too big for you, you can always come here where the scale at and you can type in a scale. So I can type in 0.5 if that's the scale I want it to be. And you see that it will adjust to 0.5. Maybe I want that a little bit bigger. So if you've already made this, you can always select it and then do a right click on this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the edit view. Once we go to edit view, it's going to bring back our old dialog box. So if I want this to be a little bit bigger, let's say I want it to be 0.75. So that fits and that looks a lot better, right? Let's go ahead and create the other views. I can go to project, and then I'm going to select this view, and then I'm just going to do a left click here, and then another left click this way. And once I'm done creating my views, do a right click with your mouse and then select create. And now you'll see that it will create those views for you. When it comes to putting dimensions on, I'm going to select the annotate tab here, and that's going to bring me open to where I can select dimensions. Now when I select the dimension, by default it's going to tell me what layer that I'm on, right? So when I go to create my first dimension here, once I select here, I'll have a dimension, right? And you can see that it gives it to me in millimeters. Maybe you don't like that dimension or the way the style of it is, and that's another video actually, is going into how to set up different styles. But we can use this drop down here, and then we can change the style of it. So if I want a ANSI millimeters with inches, I can select this last option here, and now when I select here, I can get this kind of view, right? So I can get it in inches and I can get it in millimeters. You can play around with this a little bit more. So that's the last one that I use, and it's going to stay on that until I exit out of the command and I have to come back. If I just use a regular millimeter and I select here, and let's go ahead and put the dimension down here, you'll see that it will give me that dimension going this way. But all of the dimensions that are going on the vertical side are going to be shown like this. Now there is a way that we can fix this, and once again that's set up in the styles. So if we go into the style function, we can go ahead and alter this and make it a little bit better. And I think that's going to be one of those other videos that I'll show you in another one. But just kind of a quick reference to let you know where that stuff is at. If I click on the Manage tab here, you're going to see a style editor. I'll go to Style. Well, I guess since I'm kind of walking through it here, I'll go ahead and finish showing you where it's at. But you're going to get a Style dialog box that should pop up here in a second. And once the dialog box appears, we're going to go ahead and select the word dimension and expand that. So depending on which one of these that you are using, and in the case that I was using the dual dimension one. So I'm going to click on the one that says millimeters and inches, right? I have a few different tabs here that I can select through. So depending on how you want your tabs to show up, like if you want to suppress the trailing zero or some of that nature, you can do it here. So this is going to affect the primary units, right? So say I want to say, hey, I don't want to see those trailing zeros. I can go ahead and delete those out. Another thing that I have, but in this case, we're going to go ahead and leave them on. So I'm just going to uncheck this box because we do want those extra zeros, and 2 decimal places are fine. Underneath the alternate units, this is my inches. So however many decimal places you want your inches to be, maybe I want that to only be 2 decimal places as well, right? The way that you can control the horizontal and vertical here is going to be underneath the text dialog box, and underneath my linear dimensions. You can see that my linear dimensions that are going horizontal, it keeps the text that way, but the vertical ones, it's going to make it going vertical with it. Well, I can tell it here that I want to keep that horizontal as well. So when I hit the save and close button, and now when I go ahead and use that dimension style again, let's go ahead and click back on annotation. And you can see that this one already adjusted and updated. I can also control and move that dimension underneath it, which I think is going to be a better benefit for us here. So let me jump back to the style real quick and adjust that. So I'm just going to go back to tools, back to manage, go to the style editor, wait for the dialog box to appear. And like we did before, let's go ahead and select the dimension one. I'm going to be using this inch one. I'm going to select that one. And then when this dialog box appears, I want you to select on the alternate units tab. And the way that it's going to be displayed is going to be located here. So remember, the one with the brackets are going to be our secondary units. So in that case, I want to put the primary units on top and the secondary units on bottom. So I'll go ahead and select here. Do a save and close. And then you can see now that it is updated. All right. Let's go ahead and delete these dimensions and go ahead and put the rest of these on there for us. And I'm not going to show you really all the dimensions, as you can kind of follow along and do this on your own. But back underneath the annotation, I'm going to click on dimension. I'll click here. And you can see that I forgot to come in the drop down and select the dual dimensions, which is here. And then I'll go here and place that one, right? So like I was saying, most of this stuff is standard. If you want to go ahead and put center marks and things of that nature, I can use this bisecting center line here. I'm going to select this line and then this line, and it should give me one in the middle. You can kind of pull these green grips down to adjust them however you see fit. Let's go ahead and add one more on here for here on this side. So I'm going to select these two. just to give me that one. Let's go ahead and use our dimension. Go ahead and select this style here. And then go ahead and put the dimension on. So from that endpoint to here, it's going to be here. And likewise, when I create the next dimension, it's going to be a dimension going from here to here. Oh, that was one other thing that I probably should have done in the styles is go ahead and adjust this. You can see that my text is sitting at left justification, and I'll go back one more time and adjust that for you. So it's underneath the management tab and in the style editor. Okay, and once we get here, we're going to have to do a little tracking to figure out exactly where to go to change that. So if I select on the units tab, right? Well, I'm sorry, I need to go to the text tab. So this deals with the units. But if I go to the text, it says that the primary text style, I have to go find the note text, right? So let's go ahead and adjust the note text or edit the text style for this one. When I do that and I select that icon, it automatically comes down here underneath the text, and then it finds the note text for me. And then I'm just going to tell it, hey, make that middle justification. So once I select that, I'll go ahead and do a save and close, and then you can see that all this text will adjust. All right, let's go ahead and put a couple of center marks on these lines here, or on these knobs, I should say. So I'm going to go back to the annotate. I'm going to click on center marks, and then I'll just go ahead and select these big outside circles here. Let's go ahead and place some quick dimensions on it. So I'm just going to go to dimension, make sure I select the right dimension style, go from this line here down to here. I'll go ahead and place that first one. And then I'll just keep going. Now I wish there was a continue option here, but that's one of the things that Inventor does not have, but it's easy enough to create as you keep going. Okay. So that's basic dimensioning on just singular parts, right? So say I wanted just to bring in the eye and the eye only. So I'm going to go back to primary view. I'm going to select the word base. And this is where the benefit of having some of these other ones open at the bottom. Because if they are open along here at the bottom, underneath the drop down, you can select them. So if I wanted to go to the eye and the eye only, I could select it here. You're going to see the preview of this going to change. Let me go ahead and move this over a little bit. Let's zoom in. And then we can kind of play like we did before by making this a little bit bigger. I'm just going to grab that corner and left click it, and 1:1 seems to be fine. We can make it a little bit bigger, but that should be fine for what we need. And now go ahead and place the other dimension here. Go ahead and hit OK, and you can see that it will create those views for me. And then like we did with the other one, it's just basic dimensioning, right? We can go ahead and use the dimension. Go ahead and select in the drop down, choose the default millimeter inches, and then I can just start kind of dimension this the way I see fit. And bringing in the knob is exactly the same way, right? We're just going to go back to the base view here. And then once the dialog box appears, and it is open at the bottom here, I can select the drop down and choose the word knob. You're going to see that it will give me a preview of it. Let's go ahead and shrink this one in this case. I can go ahead and place this one, and then while I have this one selected, I'm just going to left click above it to place the top view of it. Then I'll go ahead and hit OK, right? So all this stuff should be pretty much straightforward to you. Let me go ahead and move this, and another benefit of using Inventor is that you see that it will keep these in line with each other, right? A couple of more things to do on this is just to go ahead and put a center mark on here, and go ahead and put a center line that's going through here. Okay. Alright, so that's kind of drafting 101 in this program, right? But say I wanted to use or make an exploded assembly out of this, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and save this, and that's always a good practice. But for the next step, I guess I really don't have to save it, but I will have to save the presentation file. But I always tell you that it's a good idea to save it, especially at this point. Inventor does not have an automatic save. So I'm going to go ahead and select the new button here. I'm going to scroll all the way down to a standard millimeter IPT. Remember that I'm underneath the metrics tab here. And I'm just going to click that, and I'm going to create it. Now by default, when you're creating a presentation file, Inventor is going to first off start looking for an assembly file. So there's kind of ways that you have to make sure you create these. You create the parts first, then you make an assembly, and then when you come to doing the presentation file, you have to have an assembly. It's not going to look for something else. You can't do an exploded assembly if it's not an assembly. So we're going to give Inventor a few more seconds here to load up, and then we'll get started. And once it's ready to go, go ahead and hit the Insert Model button. And it's going to start looking for that IAM file that I was telling you about. So let's go ahead and select our Cooktop and hit Open. It's in an isometric view. Now the next thing I'm going to do is start tweaking components. Basically, I'm going to tell Inventor how I want this thing to assemble. What I mean by that, and I'm just going to create a quick one for you. I'm just going to select, I want these two components to slide off this way, these two to slide off that way, and maybe I'll make all the knobs slide off the other way, right? So I'm going to go to Tweak Components. Let me just make sure I don't have anything selected. I'll go to Tweak Components. It's asking me to go ahead and pick parts, so I'm going to select this part and this one. Then I'm going to select the direction, so I'm going to left click and drag this, go in this direction, right? Now you can see that I get some numbers here. Let's go ahead and type in a -300. And then I'm going to hit the green check here. So now that one is done that way, right? Let's go ahead and slide these going that direction, right? So I'm going to go back to Tweak Components, and I'll select these, hold down the Control button and select the other one. I can left click and drag this one going this direction. Looks like I accidentally clicked off of it. Let's go back to Tweak Components. I'm going to select this eye, left, hold down the Control button and left click that one. And then I'm going to find this arrow, left click and drag it going this direction. And let's go ahead and make this one maybe 200, right? So I'm going to go 200. Now maybe I wanted that one a little bit closer. So we can change this. So if this number is wrong or you want to adjust it, underneath Scenes here, I'm going to expand that, and underneath the Tweaks button, let's go ahead and expand that one. And now you're going to see the distance. So you see that distance of 300? Let's go ahead and make that 200, and you're going to see that this moved forward, right? You can also add a little bit more complexity to this. So if I wanted to, for example, go back to Tweak Components and say I want to select both of these, and then I want them to go up high, right? So let's go ahead and move this up, and let's say 100. And now we got two tweaks on this one, and let's go ahead and do that one on this one. So I'm going to go to Tweak Components, select this one, hold down the Control button, select that one. And let's go ahead and drag this one up, these two up as well, make it 100. So now those are there, and one more Tweak Components here. Let's go ahead and select our knobs here. So I'm holding that down, I have that. I'm going to left click and I'm just going to drag these knobs going this direction. Let's call it 100. One more Tweak Components. Let's go to Tweak Components and let's go ahead and select these. I'm just going to left click and drag them up. Let's go ahead and type in 100 on this. Alright, so all of my components are tweaked. The good news is that it keeps a storybook here at the bottom. So if I kind of come down here to the bottom and I drag this up, you're going to see a little bit more. And it looks like I actually dragged the view up. Let me go ahead and place this back down here. And now you can see that the storybook did appear, right? So all I need to do is kind of drag this up a little bit and play with it. But I can kind of play this however I want to see it. So if I play this, you're going to see that certain things happen in my storybook. Maybe I want, you know, two of these to go at the same time, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pause these, and you see that it's going up and doing their things of that nature. Maybe I wanted these two to move at the same time, and all I'm doing is just dragging these two, and you can see that the name of the part or component that I'm moving is here. And let's go ahead and move these two going this way, and I'm also going to bring these two with it. And let's go ahead and take a look at how that looks. So when it plays, it's going to move those two at the same time. And then it's going to move them up, right? Let's go ahead and pause it here. And next thing we do, we have these components, right? And I can also not, instead of selecting them, I guess one at a time, I can hold down the control button and then I can drag them all together. Let's do the same thing here. I'm going to select the first one and then I'll just keep selecting the control button, and then I want to move all of these together, right? So you can see that I'm shortening my storybook considerably. Let's start this over from the beginning. And now let's go ahead and play it. All right, so that's about all I need for this storybook, right? Let's go ahead and break it down and go this way. This is my exploded assembly. So you can imagine that if I had this kind of blown up or done in any other way, I can use this. Now I'm going to create a snapshot. This snapshot is what Inventor is going to use when I go ahead and put this inside of my drawing. So I'm going to go to New, Snapshot, and it's going to take a snapshot of this. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it, right? When I save it, it's just a Cooktop IPN. I'll go ahead and save that. If you want to play with this a little bit more, there are some other things that you can do. You can make a video of this, and it's real simple and it's easy to use. I won't necessarily show you how to use it here, but all you need to know is that depending on which way you want it to go, you can do it here. You can select how many pixels and things of that nature you want to do. The picture size or the orientation of it, you can adjust that here. And you can also choose what type of file you want. You either have a Windows Media or the AVI, right? So you depend on which one you want. You give it a location of it and it will create that video file for you. Let's go ahead and hit cancel. We have this saved. Let's jump back to our drawing. Our drawing is located here. I'm going to give it a second to get rid of that storybook. I'm going to go ahead and add a new sheet, right? So go back to the place here, place view, go to new sheet. It's going to bring in a B size. And now let's go ahead and bring in that presentation file that we had. So now I'm going to go back to the base. And when I see base, you're going to see that it's going to bring in that presentation file in that snapshot view that we created, right? I'm just going to make this nice and big so we can see it and play with it a little bit more here. Go ahead and hit the OK button. You have all of your components, right? One of the next things I know most people ask me about is about parts list, right? So when you go to parts list, I want you to select it here. And then it's going to ask you to go ahead and select the view. I'm just going to select this view here. Hit the OK button. It's going to say, do I want to basically save it and enable it on its view? And let's go ahead and place our parts list here at the bottom. All right. And I can go into more detail showing you how to rearrange this, but for this demo, and it's already getting a little bit longer, I'm going to kind of leave it like this. I'll just show you one more thing here, is how to put in balloons going around this, right? So if I go to the automatic balloons, and I'll show you how these work, and trust me, they're automatic, but they're not going to be as pretty as you think. But I'll go to automatic balloons, right? Let's go ahead and move this down and over here. So the first thing it does is say, hey, you need to go ahead and select a view. So I selected the view, and I'm just following along in the dialog box. It says, hey, you need to either add or remove the components that you want to do. I'm just going to put a window around all of these and say I want to go ahead and put balloons around these. The next thing it does is says select the placement. So how do I want these? Do I want them vertical, horizontal, or round? I'm going to choose around, and then I'll select placement. And when you see I move my balloon, it's going to show multiple, right? And I like the way that look. I'm just going to do a left click here. It's going to kind of give me these previews. Now you see that I have more than one eye and more than one knob. So if you want the multiple, you would uncheck this box, and then you're going to get a balloon for each and every one of those. And if that's what you want to do, it just kind of depends on how you want it. When you hit OK, it's going to automatically label those, and then you just go ahead and adjust these as you see fit, right? So that's one of those kind of neat features of, learning how to do things with balloons, and it will create those. If you wanted to do them manually, you can also use manual balloons. But that's kind of some of the stuff I can get into it. There's a lot more to this that I can show you, especially with the bill of material and on how to fill in these and adjust this kind of stuff. But I'm going to save that for a later video when I go over just strictly on the bill of material and how to do stuff of that nature, right? So, and if that's something that you're interested, please let me know that in the comments, and I'll kind of make that video a little bit sooner than expected. But for right now, I'll say that for a later date. All right. So I do hope you enjoyed watching this. Oh, one more thing. So you see that I do have these out of order, right? You can see that on sheet 2, this is the one here. And if I double click back on sheet 1, this is this one. The neat thing I like about Inventor is that I can left click on this and drag it above, and now that becomes sheet 1, and then this becomes sheet 2. So it's a little neat thing that I like to show and things of that nature. So it gives you a little bit more versatility. But back to what I was saying. If this is something that you do like seeing, or you want to see more 3D stuff in Inventor and some of the other cool things I can do with this, and might be something specific that you want to learn or you don't know about Inventor, please leave me a comment down below and I'll try to get to that on the next video. But if you hung with me this long and you really like seeing this kind of content, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you got any value out of this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.